Hello everyone, and welcome back to a new video. Blasphemous 2 is a game about pain. Quite fittingly, it belongs to the Souls-like Metroidvania genre. However, it is usually considered to be on the easier side of this punishing style of games. It is for this reason that I will be attempting to beat this game with all penances active in Ultimate Torment mode. What could possibly go wrong? Spoilers, a lot. Let us begin. The Penitent one wakes up after 1,000 years of slumber and understandably decides to wreak havoc on the world as it had disturbed his sleep. Right off the bat, we are faced with a very important choice. Which weapon are we going to choose first? The balanced Ruego al Alba, the nimble Sarmiento y Centella, or the crushing Veredicto? Forget about your zodiac sign, this is what I'm all about. After much deliberation, I decided to go for El Veredicto, as it was easily the safest weapon to use due to its enormous range and damage. It even allows you to kill enemies through walls and from safe distances. It is the best weapon in the game, to be honest. I'm sorry, Sarmiento y Centella fans, you know I'm right. With that out of the way, I proceeded to the Domine. This statue would be the source of so much agony for me in the coming days. Here, I activated all 8 penances. This is a summary of what these penances entail. Enemies deal more damage. All platforming traps are lethal. I cannot upgrade my fervor bar nor my rosary beads, so we are stuck with a mana bar the size of my sanity ever since I started this channel. We have less health in the form of health orbs. We lose half our money and experience upon death, kind of like Dark Souls. Are we done? No, we're not done. Getting hit increases our guilt, which reduces our mana bar even further and makes us even weaker. Fuck! However, we do deal more damage when guiltless. But then, all enemies respawn endlessly the moment we exit their rooms. Fuck! We lose all our fervor when we get hit, not that we have much fervor to begin with anyways. And lastly, we gain less money and experience. However, we begin the game with a fully upgraded altar piece of favors, which is the most OP shit in the game, to be honest. Now, I know this sounds like a lot. The full implications of having all penances active may not be fully clear, and believe me, I certainly didn't know what I was getting into when I started the run, but the extent to which these challenges made my life impossible will become quite evident quite shortly. My first opponent, the Faceless one, died in less than 30 seconds. This was to be expected, and this was also expected to never happen again. It was time for the true run to begin. Oh my god. Anyways, I met Anunciada, who told me I had to kill some bosses, you know, the ropes, and defeat all members of the Arch-Confraternity of Penitents. So that's what I did. But seriously, the first 2 areas weren't that bad, though I realized that the Penitent one was extremely weak, so getting health upgrades was my #1 priority. I got a spell which allowed me to teleport to the City of the Blessed Name, the only region where no one is trying to kill me constantly, and also while exploring the Profundo Lamento, I got an additional healing flask and my first traversal upgrade, which allowed me to climb walls. It was while exploring the following areas that I started to feel it. Oh my god, the endless one-shotting. Yeah man, that's perfect, just let the fucking ceiling kill me! Also, look at my fervor bar, it is completely depleted by guilt already. Not only does this mean that I cannot cast any spells or use the Veredicto's fire mode, but also that my defense has been severely reduced on top of the already much more damaging enemies. You have to play perfectly, avoiding all hits, in order to succeed in this run. This resulted in some outrageous damage from my adversaries, like this guy, who is running on his bed like me on a Sunday, can deal more damage than an actual boss in some cases. I eventually made my way to the Crown of Towers, admittedly a very poor choice because it is the one area that lacks health upgrades, the items I was looking for the most. However, I did get Ruego al Alba, which would be kind of a secondary weapon throughout this run. And you know, thankfully this area was not nearly as bad as what had come before it, especially with that soundtrack. defeating many enemies and enjoying the soundtrack, I reached Lesmes, the incorrupt sacristan. The true prepare to die starts here. If you think areas will be the most difficult part of the run, wait until you meet the bosses. Since most of his attacks would give me an aneurysm, I had to be very methodical and really think about my position in the arena to avoid projectiles in the most efficient way. After an hour of getting manhandled by Lesmes and the Infanta, I defeated them, and with that, the first serious boss of the run was gone. On to the next area. I quickly ran past the Aqueduct of the Costales and entered the Sacred Entombments. This area was severely trollish in nature, with giant arms emerging from the sand and explosive guys appearing from nowhere. You know what this run reminded me of? Those old, impossible games, from the 2010s, in which every bit of progress felt like a massive achievement. And just like those games, this run was infuriatingly rage-inducing. I accidentally recorded my voice for a moment, and I got a reaction which perfectly encapsulates my feelings. Up until that point in the run, it overcomes all language barriers. La puta madre! Other than that, it was a pretty good area, with a very nice flow to it. Eventually, I reached Ramees, and since I wasn't expected to juggle two bosses at the same time here, this ended up being a relatively easy fight. And I just want to mention how solid the bosses in this game are. Like, I would hazard to say that Blasphemous 2 has one of the best boss rosters I've ever seen, at least in the Souls-like genre. With Ramees dead, there was only one more boss to go. The following area, which was the palace of the embroideries, was fucking harsh, mostly because of these little guys who kept one-shotting me. I hate them so much. It was in this area that I got Sarmiento y Centella, the last weapon in our arsenal of penance, for now. And now comes the sad story. Not only did I lose most of the footage for this area because of a recording error, I also had to beat Ospina twice because I Alt F4'd before resting at a checkpoint. The 9th penance is just being bad at the game. In order to defeat Ospina, I challenged my inner parry god and defeated her after some attempts. Twice. And with this, the elevated temples are made accessible. However, before we can fully explore them, we must acquire the double jump skill in the lowest depths of the world. At this point, the Penitent one was pretty damn strong for the early game, so the next boss died in 2 or 3 attempts. Do not get accustomed to this though. The double jump ability was a major traversal upgrade, allowing me to grab hold of many health items. One of them was in the streets of Wakes. Normally, I would be able to upgrade my rosary beads and my fervor in this region, but none of the NPCs respond to me when interacted to. However, the guy that sells you an ornate chalice, which gives you an additional health orb, does talk to you. It costs around 8,000 Tears of Atonement, and it is one of the few things that you can actually do with your money in this challenge. Most of the time you will lose it to spike pits or something. Atop the elevated temples was the Chapel of the 5 Doves, where I would need to get 5 keys to free 5 pigeons. Naturally, this will have me kill, you guessed it, 4 bosses. And now comes the part of Blasphemous 2 that I really do not get. After a non-linear and open early game, you are forced to go through the remaining areas in a linear fashion, which kind of defeats the purpose of the genre. You cannot have the Metroid without the Vania, if you even know what I mean. Anyways, first on the list was Benedicta, the boss at the end of the Basilica, a zone whose enemies dealt reasonable damage. Benedicta is a bad person. She is sad and she is cruel. She has a most powerful ally on her side, Gravity, and she probably killed me more times than any other boss in this run. It is literally impossible to get tired of her soundtrack though. after this fight, I acquired some very useful skills, which would make this run significantly easier. First, I found enough sisters to teleport between checkpoints. The usefulness of this ability cannot be overstated, and I recommend that you get it as soon as possible. Then, I discovered a borderline OP combination of altar piece figures, Nacimiento and the Ecstatic Nun. It allows you to briefly stop time after you heal. What? This is actually insane, as it allows you to bypass entire rooms by healing strategically. This run would have been practically impossible without this skill. The next boss would be Odon, the guardian of the sunken cathedral. He is absolutely badass, and he pierces you in the ass. What is this script, honestly? He is actually a water-themed boss, which is nice because water is an underrated element in video games, I believe. His water must come from some sort of mercury-polluted source though, because merely touching it demolishes you. Moreover, he also utilizes the elements of lightning and ganking. Odon may have killed me more times than Benedicta, but I cannot be sure. I wanted to keep track of my deaths, but I lost count very early on. Like, I must have died hundreds of times throughout this run. But my resolve could not be broken. Eventually, I clutched a victory, and Odon now sleeps with the fishes. This victory unlocked the next area, the Inverted Tower. Here, I found the last major platforming ability, which allowed me to explore the vast majority of the map, and get the final health and healing upgrades. To be honest, at this point I was mostly jumping my way around enemies, because the truth is that Tears of Atonement don't have many uses. Sure, I could pay to have a confession, or buy more items, but honestly, other than a few strategic items, you can mostly avoid using tears. And do not forget, enemies appear infinitely after I go back to the rooms in which I killed them, so actually going through the areas killing enemies is a painful endeavor, Sisyphean, if you will. After some running around, I decided to face the area boss, Synodo, Hymn of 1,000 Voices. This is another banger of a boss. His projectiles are huge, like my weapon, and he deals devastating damage. From time to time, his face changes, enabling different moves. The hardest by far is the masked one. Like, these are insane levels of bullet hell, and each individual ball dealt so much damage. Thankfully, my time-stopping abilities came in handy. I got good RNG with the phase switching and reached his last phase, which actually coincides with his last phase, having almost depleted his health bar. Defeating Synodo unlocked one of the final areas of the main game, the Two Moons. This area was nothing to write home about. The area is very unique and I love its vibes, because its eastern feel reflects a very important part of Spain's history. But overall, it wasn't very challenging and I quickly reached the boss, Susana, defeating her after some attempts. El Cid Campeador would be proud. At this point, I was able to just run through the last area of the game, which is a breeze, and defeat the 2 final bosses. However, I still had to try out the game's brand new DLC and recover the Penitent one's original weapon, the Mea Culpa. To do this, I ventured into this new snow area, which may have taken inspiration from the Dark Souls 2 Snow DLC, and fought Sor, Cautiva el Silencio. This is probably one of the coolest bosses in the game, but it's a bit too much. There are way too many things happening on screen to properly concentrate. Namely, these secondary nuns that spit wax at you that turns into monsters, which is just disrespectful to be honest. And my brain cannot handle so many stuff at the same time. Also, she has like a lot of health. I specifically cleansed my guild to get the damage boost that one of the penances gives me, and I completed a quest that rewarded me with a very powerful altarpiece figure, the Unwavering one. This statue increases both the chance of getting a critical hit and the damage that set strikes deal. This allowed me to greatly reduce the duration of the fight, just enough to clutch a victory without heals. After this, I opened this door with a ceramic key and entered a dream in which I met Crisanta. She was the one that had woken up the Penitent one from his slumber, and she bestowed upon me the Mea Culpa's hilt. However, I was stabbed by some edgelord called Brother Asterion and had to chase him. A battle of the Chads ensued. I used Ruego al Alba due to its speed, and having defeated Brother Asterion flawlessly, may I add, I acquired the full Mea Culpa. We are so back. And how strong is this new weapon? Well, it's alright I guess. It is kind of meant to replace Ruego al Alba, I believe, but it feels like a more limited version of the original Mea Culpa, which was an absolute beast, and far too powerful for this game to be honest. Anyways, Brother Asterion wasn't truly dead, so we still had some scores to settle. I tracked him down through the zone of Santa Vigilia, and believe me, this was much easier said than done. I was stuck here for hours, and fought him again. I wish I could tell you that this was a challenging encounter, but I kind of got him stuck in some sort of parry loop. You know how it is, honor and victory are not the same. After this, Brother Asterion committed suicide. I would feel sorry for him if it wasn't for the fact that he attacked me first, like, why, for what reason? We could have fought together. You reap what you sow, I guess. Just beyond the arena, I found a room with the statues of the 3 bearer penitents, which spawned 3 penitent warriors for me to fight. Each of them used one of my weapons. The one with the mace and the one with the sword were easy enough, but the Sarmiento y Centella one killed me 20 times. This is what I get for mocking that weapon. But with all 3 penitents defeated, I got a new prayer, called the Prayer of the Penitents. Along with the Mea Culpa, this was one of the items I needed for the new DLC ending. However, we were still not done with this expansion. To begin with, I felt compelled to fully upgrade Mea Culpa. The upgrade materials for this weapon were behind some serious Path of Pain shit. I died so many times because of the instant fall kills. At the end, I had a much better version of the unupgraded Mea Culpa, but it still couldn't quite reach the same heights as the original one. also grabbed all lamps of gold, a new collectible introduced by the DLC. There are 20 of them, and a big recommendation: put markers on your map or else you will spend a whole hour looking for the last one. This would never happen to me, of course. Huh. The reward for this is a figure that gives Mea Culpa the platforming abilities of all weapons. This would have been nice, like 10 hours of gameplay ago. Lastly, I completed a series of combat challenges, after which I interacted with this ghost guy to get a golden vial flask. At the time of recording, the effects of the vial were nothing! And by this, I do not mean that it was purely cosmetic. It actually did nothing. It didn't heal me, it didn't trigger the time stop effect. I could not believe it, but it was a bug and it was patched later. And after completing this trifecta of Metroidvania challenges, you know, jumping through things, collecting things, and killing things, I decided it was high time I finished this game. Let's do this! And that was pretty much it. After watching the ending cutscene, you will get some rewards for completing the all penance run. However, I do not do these things for the reward, I'm here for the challenge and the pain. Overall, I would say that this is the ultimate way of playing through Blasphemous 2, which is otherwise a pretty forgiving Souls-like. The run starts off very difficult, but it becomes more manageable as your power and skill grow. Blasphemous 2 is an awesome game, and Mea Culpa proved to be a more than worthwhile expansion. Therefore, this was quite a positive experience. 9 coneheads out of 10. Let us hope that the Penitent one can finally have some rest after this. This video took a very long time to make, so please consider liking and subscribing as it is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye!